Hey everyone, this is Kat coming to you from my home office today. I wanted to sit down and make a little video about how I've been financially planning to thru hike the Appalachian Trail in 2022. This is absolutely an area that everyone's going to be planning for differently, depending on their personal and financial situations. But I thought maybe some of the steps that I've taken and some of the considerations I made could help people still in the planning process or who are going to thru hike a long trail in the future. My planning for the AT actually started a couple of years ago. So I've known that I wanted to do the trail for a number of years, and the expenses of it and the financial part of it is one of the reasons that it's taken me a couple of years to get to the place where I'm ready to go. The first thing I really thought of when I was starting to financially plan for the AT thru hike was the on-trail budget. So I was thinking and researching what does it take to actually make it for the 5 to 7 months on the AT that it's going to take me to hike. What I read through, various Reddit threads, Google searches, company forums, what I've seen through other people's YouTubes is that there is an average number of around $1,000 a month on trail that you've got to spend to get what people, I guess, would consider to be like a comfortable thru hike. What that means is that people are spending money and are budgeting for things like staying in hotels or motels or hostels, things like resupplying for your food in town, as well as maybe eating out a little bit when you get to a town for some of that additional comfort. Even things as what we would maybe consider to be as simple as like taking a shower. That's not always necessarily free depending on where you're staying. I am planning to do the AT in 6 months, or I'm hoping to do the AT in 6 months. So for me, that means $6,000 of on-trail expenses. The next part of the budgetary planning phase really came into what happens while I'm on the trail at home. So for me, I do have a pretty good amount of financial responsibilities. I own a house, so I have a mortgage. That also comes with things like utilities, insurance, taxes, all of that good stuff. I also own a car. Luckily, I don't have a car payment, but I certainly have insurance payments. And I also have a good amount of student loan debt and some credit card debt that I wanted to really think about and think carefully about as I was starting to financially plan for the trail. So the first step that I took was really to look at my expenses for the house. So mortgage, utilities, all of the good stuff that you normally pay on a monthly basis. For me, for 6 months, this really gets pretty close to $10,000. So I was like, okay, now I have to figure out how I'm gonna make that work. In my case, I decided to do my best to save up and prepay my mortgage and my utilities for 6 months. And when I say prepay, what I mean is save that money and put it into a house account that my sister will use to pay our bills. She does use to pay our bills. But I wanted to prepay into that so that my sister wasn't left in the lurch. If something happened with her where she wasn't getting the same level of income, she wouldn't be stuck with both of our mortgage payments instead of just her half of it. So I did that. I actually successfully saved up the $10,000 and I put it over there in the house account. So now she's going to be all set to pay our house bills for 6 months. As I mentioned, I do have a good amount of student loan debt. So this is over the past, I would say 2.5 years. I've really been trying aggressively to pay my student loan debt. And in fact, I successfully did that in December of 2021. So happy to report that I'm now student loan debt free. The last piece here really is my personal credit card debt. It's not horrifying in my opinion. I do pay everything, all of my normal expenses I pay on my credit card to get some of the bonuses and benefits that come with things like credit card points. And then I just pay my credit card either down or off depending on the level of income that I have on a monthly basis from my job. So that's how I do it. But of course, over time that racks up and you get interest and things like that. So I do still have some debt on my credit card. I'm trying over the next couple of weeks before I start the thru hike to try and pay it down as much as I possibly can. Another thing that is going into my financial planning is what I'm going to do about health insurance. This is something that, of course, everyone has different beliefs on, but I believe that I would be silly not to retain or have some health insurance going into this hike. First of all, I have a couple of underlying conditions such as asthma. That means that I have some prescription drugs that I need to get on a regular basis, on a monthly basis. So without insurance, quite expensive. With insurance, still a bummer, but it is doable. And it's not gonna, set me back hundreds of dollars a month. The other thing is that I am not the fittest of people and I am clumsy. So, what happens if I fall down a mountain and break my leg, for example? Without insurance, that would be a really hefty hospital bill that could take me off trail just because of the financial aspect of it, but also because I broke my leg. But it's not always as drastic as breaking a leg. What if I get Lyme disease and I have to go to the doctor? All of those things are things that I'm thinking. For those of you who may be watching in a different country, America's healthcare system is interesting. So you can pretty easily get into hot water financially if you don't have insurance. Even if you do have insurance, it's possible, but it's less likely if you do have a decent insurance plan. So this is something that certainly is an ongoing conversation between me and my job right now. So happily, my work and my manager have been really, really supportive of my goal of through hiking the AT. We've been having some conversations about it recently and really, really supportive. I think it's an outstanding question what we're gonna do with health insurance, whether they'll be able to pay for some of it for me, whether I'll have to extend it through COBRA, get some sort of more generic healthcare plan through Obamacare, for example. All of those things are still open, but certainly part of the financial landscape of a through hike. Another really big ticket item for me was planning for, budgeting for, and buying the gear that I would need to through hike on the AT. I was somebody who, went for day hikes here and there. I had a day pack and I had a couple of other things, but I did not have anywhere close to the gear or the quality of gear that I felt like I needed to successfully attempt a through hike of the AT. So this is an area that certainly I've spent many, many hours researching, trying to figure out what makes sense to try and go really ultralight, aka very expensive in most cases, or what I can kind of go a little bit more traditional and maybe not pay as much money. So for me, because I was starting from scratch, overall my gear expenses have been multiple thousands of dollars. It's not a cheap hobby to go backpacking and to go through hiking. One of the things that actually really helped me out in this area was the company that I work for right now. So they have an employee recognition program where you can get points for, everyday achievements for doing a good job. With these points, you can buy things like merchandise, gift cards, etc. And one of the gift cards you can buy is REI. So basically, over the last year or so, I've spent all of the points that I've been getting through this recognition program on REI gift cards and have been going to REI pretty exclusively for most of my gear, with the exception of some things that you can't get there, like my Gossamer gear tent, like my Senshi base layers, some things that are from more smaller companies or cottagecore companies. But with those exceptions in mind, pretty much everything else I've got at REI, and a good amount of it I've got with the points and with the gift cards. So that's been a big help. At some point, I will certainly put together a sort of a final lighter pack that will show sort of my final pack build, my final gear list. And also I'll probably put in the price of everything in there, just so that folks can kind of see what it actually takes to build that pack. For folks who are on the ultralight train, if anybody wants to pick apart that lighter pack, from a weight perspective, I'm certainly happy to hear some feedback from folks who are more experienced than I am. So that's my story about the gear budgeting. The final consideration that I'm making for the AT through hike budget is whether or not I want to sell my car. I have a 2011 Ford and it's in really good shape. There's nothing wrong with it. There's, a lot of history in that car. I am personally not one of those people to throw my car away just because it's a little bit older or whatever. I bought that car new, so it's just it's a little over 10 years old. But she runs fine. So I wasn't necessarily planning to get rid of her just to get rid of her. However, that being said, where I live is a big pain in the winter. You can't keep your car parked in the street if there is a snow ban or anything like that. So for my sister or for my friends to have to check on my car, make sure that it's still running, maybe drive it a little bit, and then move it back if there is a snow emergency, that is not the best experience for them. I don't necessarily want my car to be dependent on someone else. So I actually am more strongly considering selling it. If I do sell it, then actually that sets me up really well financially for the AT. So I'll have a lot more padding than I originally thought in my budget. So more to come on that. I'll let people know if I do end up selling my little car, but those are my plans.